Pete Crow-Armstrong has led a surging Cubs offense to be one of the most productive in the game. Can it continue? Will PCA continue? And how do we value that going forward? All that and recap of the Yahoo Friends and Family Draft, which is tied into that, all coming up next. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Jeff Erickson here with Fred Zinkie. We are happy to be talking about a lot of different things today, including the Yahoo Friends and Family Draft. We're going to be talking about overachieving and underachieving units, hitters, team units. We're talking about the overachieving teams, underachieving teams, hitters and pitchers both. First, though, and this is kind of ties it all in together. We did the Yahoo Friends and Family Draft last night, Fred. This is like the third year in a row we've done it as an in-season draft, which means, reflecting the change in values of breakout players.
Yeah, it was really cool experience. I thought a lot of fun. Scott Pianowski, who organizes it, he waited. I feel like this might be the latest we draft, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was this late again last year. But waiting this late in the season, really April 20th, I don't know. I could probably just mostly sit on my preseason values minus injuries, but May 20th, that's a long way into the season to just leave your rankings alone. So it was really cool to be put into all these different dilemmas where we were balancing recency bias versus maybe players who are at we're actually pretty deep now. We're a quarter of the way past the quarter point pull, right, of the baseball season. So players who are a quarter of the way into a breakout season. So it was really interesting to see where everybody went.
Yeah, it was. And I am going to pull up the draft grid, and we're going to do it. I've got it by teams. We can also do it by individual, like the draft itself. And hopefully those of you who are streaming with us there can, it's not too small of a font there. And I apologize that it is. I will post the link also in the forum for those of you streaming with us there. And you guys can check out everything going on in the draft room that we saw there last night, because I think it's fascinating. I think it's utterly fascinating. I personally kind of steered into the recency bias. And the thing is, we were drafting next to each other too, which I didn't even realize until halfway through the draft. Oh yeah, Fred and I are back to back. We seem to do that a few times, but first round, 9th pick, I took Fernando Tatis Jr., rectifying all the wrongs of the draft season for me. Little FOMO. They get that. Actually, no. I mean, I think he's definitely worth the spot there. Pete Crow-Armstrong, though, is definitely a recency bias pick at 16. Guy that's gone, he was what, pick 100, maybe a little earlier in late drafts.
Yeah.
But if you look at all the player raters, PCA is a top 5 player so far this year. So it wasn't full steer into the recency bias, but it's a mostly steer into the recency bias.
Yeah, I don't think he would have made it back to you. Your next pick was 33. I'd be interested.
Oh, he definitely would not have.
Yeah,
absolutely would not have.
Yeah, so he's probably he's one of the most extreme examples of someone who was hard to value for this, in the sense of like you said, he's been literally a top 5 player so far who was available outside the top 100 in all of our drafts. So he was one of the most interesting ones to see where he went. Like I said, if you hadn't taken him, I just look at some of the other names. I feel like there's no way he's making it back to. I just see some guys who went like Machado and Bregman and stuff like that. I don't think PCA. I think someone's going to take a shot at him. It also comes back to that theory of what are you trying to accomplish here? Are you trying to finish 6th, or are you trying to finish 1st? So taking PCA, maybe he flops. Maybe we end up looking back in a season and we're like, man, he had a nice couple months, and then he really tailed off. But if that doesn't happen, he could be someone who's a league winner, as we've seen so far for you. And it's really hard when you're in the middle of the season. You think, I would find this as I was doing some picks last night. I would be like, well, what are the odds that this guy just totally flops tomorrow? We're in the middle of the season. He's playing great. Why would he all of a sudden just stop playing well at all? It might happen for a few guys, but I found myself questioning whether that would happen with the guys who have been overachieving so far.
Right. And I think it's regress again. It's always channeling our good friend Scott Pianowski. Regress to what? Yeah. I think that's the thing you always have to ask. And I'll say this: the risk is present with PCA. We know what his weakness is. It's strikeouts, 50 strikeouts against not just 9 walks. However, strikeout percentage, 25%,
Totally
not
fine.
great, but not abysmal either. Not like disqualifying. It's not like he's up around 30%.
25% with like a rich skill set where you can do a lot of damage when you do make contact is totally fine. I will say I picked one pick before you. I took Paul Skeens in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty adamant that I was going to take a pitcher in the second round, but I was not really thinking PCA. Like if I was going to go hitter, I probably would have taken Gunnar Henderson. He was the other guy I was looking at, but obviously
Mm-hmm.
like the total opposite case of PCA where Gunnar Henderson is off to a poor start has come around a little bit, but is off to a poor start this year, but was so well regarded going into the year.
Yeah. And to that end, I think it's interesting that I wasn't even thinking about like I was thinking about. I'm sure. Let me rephrase it. I was thinking about PCA in the first round. I was like, he could be worth it. He could be a top 5 player. He could.
Yep.
There is all that category juice, and the Cubs have one of the easier schedules the rest of the way. Remember how much talk we talked about early on about how front loaded the Cubs schedule was? They played the Dodgers 7 times early on. They played the home and away with the Padres, for instance. I think they went all the way into like, I think all the way through April without playing a team that had a losing record, which is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And they're off to such a great offensive start. Like you said, despite that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely. Really impressive. I wasn't considering him in the first round. Like, how about this? If PCA finished the season ranked where he is right now, so let's say he finished the season as the 5th most valuable player, I still don't know if he goes in the top 5 next year after 1 year of that. So I wasn't considering him really in the top 10 after a couple months.
Yeah. You're already getting questioned for your draft. And here's where I mentioned maybe you're steering into a little bit of like let's stick with the old rankings. You took Juan Soto over Francisco Lindor. Soto is not having a good year. He's unfortunately been the target of a little bit of negative attention the last 4 or 5 days, not running some things out. You still took Soto over Lindor, over Mookie, over Vlad, over Harper. Tell me why you went Soto here.
Well, I mean, going into the season, Soto would have been the pick there, or even a couple picks before there. Soto really had a bad April. So in May, he's got a 934 OPS. Like in May, he's played 16 games. In 16 games, he has 5 homers and 4 steals and a 934 OPS. He has been very Soto-like in May. He's not hitting 300 or something in May, but the homers are there. Steals are surprisingly there, which, as I've said to you before, I feel like is something players do when they're struggling a little bit to try to find ways to contribute to a team, especially a new team. I just think by the end of the year, Soto's going to have a 900 OPS, just like he did last year and the year before and has in his career. I don't know if he'll be like a fantasy god kind of guy, because that's not always what Soto is, but I don't know. I can still 2 months into the season, and the guy's got a 934 OPS this month, and last year he hit 41 homers. I'm good. I'm still fully in on Soto. Actually, Lindor was the other guy I was considering at that spot. I would have probably taken Tarek Skubal if he was there. He went 5th, but with him gone, I was probably debating Soto and Lindor.
All right, fair enough. Couple of noteworthy overall picks here. Round 2, Ronald Acuna Jr. to Dalton Del Don, who does his Dalton thing. And in fact, we had Frank Schwab on Sirius XM today, and we asked him about a couple of Dalton's picks, and he goes, and Nick, I think, asked about it. It's like, should we take any away from that? And she goes, he said something to the effect of, you should take away the Dalton is still Dalton. And that's almost precisely word for word what I was thinking when he responded that way. I thought that was pretty funny. He also took, Dalton also took Spencer Strider, who's coming off the IL today, Fred, making his second start of the season. He took him in the 5th round there. So that's also such a Dalton pick.
Yeah, Dalton invested tremendously in pitching, like Skubal in the 1st, Wheeler in the 3rd, Strider in the 5th, Clase in the 6th. So pitchers with 4 of his top 6 picks, and then took some chances on the hitters. So Acuna, like obviously a big risk. And Matt Olson in the 4th is also a big risk. Like, he's not off to an awesome start this year, but we know what Matt Olson can be. He also took Michael Harris in the 7th.
Good Lord, he took all the Braves.
So his first 3 hitters were all Braves. So again, on that theory of like, you're not here to finish 6th, take 3 Braves, Hope that Acuna comes back and sparks the lineup. Maybe the Braves are one of the highest scoring lineups from this point forward, and you combine the Braves with the high end pitching that he took, and maybe he wins this league. And maybe the Braves crap out and he finishes 10th.
Yep.
So, I think it, like you said, it was a very Dalton Del Don draft, and that's not an insult at all. Take some chances.
There you go. There you go. Let's look at a couple more of your picks here. So you started off Soto and Skeens, Jaron Duran in the third, Joe Ryan in the fourth, Cal Raleigh in the fifth, Munoz in the sixth. If I recall, you weren't on Raleigh in draft season because of the average. Am I getting that right, or am I mischaracterizing you?
I have some. I have some shares in Raleigh.
Okay.
Yeah, like I've moved him up just like everybody else has. Like I took him as the first catcher in this one. And again, like that was like like you said, trying to balance the recency picks versus like like what I would have done in March. Like in a one catcher league, I would not take Cal Raleigh in the 5th round in March, but like he's right there. He keeps bouncing him around the major league leaders in home runs, and to get that as a catcher, like if he can keep that up the rest of the way, could be tremendously valuable. So yeah, that was to me like more of a recency pick.
Yeah, it was. I could see that there. It's a one catcher league too. That was one of the things that it's kind of a little tricky, is to figure out catcher values, whether you be the first, whether you go later like I did. I think both are defensible, especially if you're getting a real difference maker at the position.
Yeah, the guy who I was considering was Marcell Ozuna, if I was going to take a different hitter, who went one pick before it came back to me. I know I probably wouldn't have taken Ozuna when it came back because I was going to take a hitter and then a reliever. So, but it was Ozuna was the other guy. But Ozuna's outfield eligible in Yahoo. I already had my first 2 hitters were also outfielders. Not that it matters that much, but I was like, you know what? Maybe Cal Raleigh finishes with more homers than Ozuna, and I get him at the catcher position. So I'd rather play around with the outfield spot maybe. Although I will say that like in a lot of the writing I've done recently, I have commented that catcher feels like pretty, I don't know if it feels deep, but maybe not deep because some of the good ones haven't done well so far this year. It feels really dynamic where like we've added some of these guys like Agustin Ramirez, and now you've got guys like Rushing and Ballesteros coming up. Like catcher to me, it feels like a little more of an interesting position this year than in a lot of other years, partially because these players coming up, and then partially because some of our traditional studs like Adley Rutschman, William Contreras, like haven't met expectations so far.
Yep, indeed. PJ asks, is Kyle Stowers the biggest riser in all draft season? He's one of them for sure. I haven't really done a total like comprehensive, like, okay, who rose the most, who fell the most, absent an injury. Stowers, though, undrafted, obviously, in most formats. He goes in the 12th round to Laz. That was, so I was on the comeback there. So the other end of the draft from us, honestly,
not super high, like 12th round.
No, that's reasonable, but I mean, it is meteoric at the same time, but I think defensible.
Oh yeah. I think that someone, I wouldn't have been this someone, but someone could have got carried away and taken him 5 rounds earlier than round 12. We're probably all looking at that strikeout rate, which like flips and flops around 30, like the 30% mark, and thinking like, am I really in on this guy? Like with a 30% strikeout rate. So I think that's where he doesn't steal bases. So if he doesn't hit for average, then he's a one-dimensional power hitter. With the strikeout rate around 30%, with the BABIP at 389 right now, like it's easy to see how Stowers going forward could be like a 240 hitter with power, which is fine, but like not that valuable.
Yeah. I would mention a couple other guys, and we could do the whole thing. We could do the whole show based on this draft, but we won't, because we did have a format that we wanted to cover. But 2 guys that are maybe more recency bias guys, one of them for sure, but Nate Eovaldi, you got in round 10. It's not like a huge leap up, but he has definitely improved his stock. And then Geraldo Perdomo. The road to Perdomo is now well traveled. You grabbed him at pick 154 overall. I got Perdomo might be my only good draft pick in the main event. I'm being a little facetious because we're doing okay there, but we got him in the 29-30 turn in a 15-teamer. You picked him at pick 154 here.
Yeah, I felt like that was fairly aggressive. Like I wasn't in love with the pick when I made it, but I do think he's a good defensive player. I think he's locked in at shortstop, one of the best offenses in the league. He steals bases. Yeah, I did feel like I had a fair amount of, like, I took AJ Smith-Shawver later. He lasted a long time. I thought Tyler Malley would go earlier. There's just still not, I think among industry people, like there's not a lot of buy-in for
I
what Tyler
agree.
Malley's done so far. Like pick 250.
We're all in that. It's bound to collapse. And I
Yeah,
actually have Malley in
I
a
didn't
couple
even
leagues
want
too.
him.
Yeah,
Like I didn't even
same.
want him.
I don't want to be the sucker in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'd already taken Merrill Kelly. I'd already taken Smith Sharver. Like I didn't even want him. The picks where I was like, and I want to look at yours here in a sec too and see if there's any of these for you. But like Malley, yeah, like I said, was just hanging around, and I was like, all right, sure. My pick that I found maybe the most interesting to me was Royce Lewis at pick 183, because you can spin that one of two ways of like, well, I have Royce Lewis for 2 weeks before he gets hurt, or we've already sucked up the annual Royce Lewis IL stint. And
Mhm.
maybe I got Royce Lewis, who was going a lot higher than pick 183 at one point during draft, like a lot higher during draft season. Like maybe I've got him now and I didn't have to soak up the IL stint. So when he kept falling, I was like, nobody wants to take Royce Lewis anymore, eh? Like he can be a pretty good hitter when he's healthy. So I don't know what you thought about, if you had any interest in him, but I felt like he just kept falling.
Yeah. I'm waiting for him to do something. I'm kind of poking him with a stick. Do something.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, and the funny thing is, the
Yep.
Twins are playing such good ball,
Yep.
and so many things have gone wrong with this team. Royce Lewis has missed most of the year, and when he has played, he hasn't been anything worth anything. Keyshaw comes up, looks great. Oh, then he gets hurt. Starting pitching, Ober's been has been pretty kind of frustrating. Yesterday adds to that frustration. He has a lead after 3 innings, and rain delay ends up suspending the game. It's rained out today, by the way. Also, if you're in daily moves leagues. It's just they've had some players underachieve. Yet here they are. I mean, yes, they had 2 series against Baltimore, and that goes a long way, but they're playing a lot better ball now right now. Their bullpen is pitching really well. Duran's been awesome. Even Griffin Jacks hasn't been awesome, but the rest of the bullpen has been great.
Yeah, I think the Twins have a lot of potential. Like you said, I think they've done well in the win-loss column so far, with having several important players not really totally hit their stride so far. So I think I thought the Twins had a good team last year, and it just never came together. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I really like the Twins rotation. I always have. Like, I just find like it's just got a lot, like Ryan, Lopez, Ober, and then the potential of guys like Fester, Matthews, and then just like the boringness of guys like Paddock or Woods Richardson. I don't know. I think it's a good rotation.
Yeah.
Um, and there's
Paddock's
some
been
good,
pitching a lot better lately, by the way.
yeah,
A
and there's some
lot better
good
lately.
arms in the bullpen, and like someone like Royce Lewis, he's only played 13 games since he's been back. He's got a low BABIP. Like he'll probably hit his stride.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wallner's been hurt for a while. Eventually they'll
yes,
get him back.
yes.
I think that'll be a big addition for them. They got to get Buxton and Correa back now.
Mhm.
Buxton was awesome before getting hurt. That was one of the
Absolutely.
big reasons for why they were
Yep.
playing well. Now he's on the concussion IL, and so is Correa. His final destination MLB, with them colliding with each other. Of course, it was meant
Yes.
to be,
Yeah.
but so it goes. All
I'm
right,
looking. I was gonna, before you go on, I was looking at your team, and
that's what I
you.
was going to bring up.
Oh,
Actually,
okay, yeah, you're right. Like so much recency bias,
I know I'm such a
top
sucker.
to bottom, top to bottom. It's fun though. It's
Yeah,
fun. Like I can throw it for everyone listening. Like a few years, like Jacob Wilson in the 10th, Michael Garcia in the 11th, Tyler Soderstrom in the 12th. Like these are all guys going a long way ahead of where they went previously. Jesus Luzardo,
Mike Garcia, not so much because of the stolen bases, right?
I guess, pick 129. I don't know. I'd have
Yeah,
to look at
maybe.
what he
I
was
need a
in draft.
second baseman, and they're drying up too.
Yeah, like, oh, I can go back up higher, like Torkelson in the 7th. Like you did get some guys at the beginning, like Michael King, Brian Wu, like those guys were solid. Mason Miller, James Wood, like
Mhm.
those guys were all good values. Like you did your Pete Crow-Armstrong was your one really early riser.
Yep.
Your other guys like are either like just stable or little risers, but through the middle rounds, like Matthew Liberatore in round 16, you throw him
Yep.
into Ivan Herrera in round 18. Trent Grisham,
That's
you
about where
commented on him, I
Herrera was
remember in the
going.
chat.
Trent Grisham is a
Yeah,
total uber reach. Yeah.
Herrera in one catcher leagues. I don't know if that's
Well, that's a
totally
good
where
point. 2 catcher
he was
leagues, that's
going.
where
Two
he's
catcher,
going. And
totally.
this
Yeah.
is the only like 1 catcher league I play in. I play almost exclusively 2 catcher
Mhm.
leagues.
Yeah,
So
me too.
I think you're right. I have to recalibrate a little bit there.
But you really hit, yeah, you really hit during the middle rounds. like guys who have had like from round 10, like Wilson, Garcia, Soderstrom, Luzardo, like that stretch. And then maybe like the two Holmes, Clay and Grant, like I don't think those are major inflations, but then Liberatore, Lars Nootbaar, like, yeah, you really hit in the middle rounds, the inflated guys from about Torkelson in round 7 through to Liberatore, say in round 16, like most of your picks were inflation guys. And I don't know, I think it's so fun to see how this all plays out, because while you were taking those guys, other people were taking players who had fallen a ton. Adley Rutschman went in round 13. Like other people were taking guys who went much, much earlier in draft season. And then the value on injured players, like Logan Gilbert going in round 9, like he could be back in like 2 weeks and be a top 5 starter the rest of the season. I took Jazz Chisholm in round 9 as a guy, again, who is like a top 30 pick in draft season. And now I'm getting him outside the top 100. And he's doing some drills, and he could be back in a couple of weeks. So the injured guys too were really, because you have to factor that in differently, because like they're not injury prone, they're actually injured, and there's less of the season left. So if they're going to miss a month, it's a greater percentage of what we're actually going to count. So for everyone who's listening, like none of the stats generated so far count. So
PJ made a good point. I reached a little too early for closer. I took Mason Miller in the 4th round as the first closer. This is the NFBC mentality, Fred, that they go a lot earlier. However, this league typically values closers pretty highly.
Or at least relievers, because you have the daily roster moves.
Yeah, and we had, but yet a cap on free agent.
Daily lineup moves.
Yep. Josh Hader was a full round later, for instance, there. As the next closer. So I kind of missed on that there a little bit there. I would have been happy with either of those at 5'9". So could have taken a better starting pitcher, for instance, or a different hitter. Clase went to Dalton in the next round, but again, Edwin Diaz went to DJ Short in that round. You took Munoz in the 6th. So the 6th round seems to be where people were kind of going. Robert Suarez also in the 6th. I think because of the changing closer market, Devin Williams losing his job, others kind of a little shaky. I felt like a little bit of a sense of urgency in getting one. I didn't want to be on the wrong end of the top closer run. I wanted to get 2 closers and then not really totally sweat closers later on. So that was kind of my preference. I also ended up getting Joan Duran in the 8th round to get a second closer. Different strokes for different folks. If you feel comfortable streaming relievers and you're going to use up your moves that way, I mean, not use up your moves, but that you're comfortable trolling the waiver wire, trying to beat people to the punch. Great. Then that works for you. I can do it. I don't think I'm going to be able to beat people to the punch in free agency either. I think other people will be more involved on that, maybe having fewer leagues, maybe just having pockets in their day where they're not on air, for instance, during the day, and they may be able to snap them up a little bit easier.
Yeah, I definitely felt some buyer's remorse from the regular draft season on closers, because I did draft some Devin Williams. I drafted plenty of Jeff Hoffman, who hasn't been a total washout. Like Jeff Hoffman's still the Blue Jays closer. I think he has 4 wins and a handful of saves, but the ratios, he's had some blowups, so the ratios are bad. I like Class A. I have him on a team. Like
he seems fine now, by the way.
Seems fine now for sure, but definitely hasn't returned the value of like a 4th or 3rd round draft pick. So far, we'll see where things go from here. Anyway, so I was a little more, and we'll see if this carries forward to my draft season next year, but I was a little more like, I'm not going too crazy. So I drafted Anthony Munoz in round 6. And then I waited, and then I took Luke Weaver in 14th, which was maybe cathartic from my Devin Williams picks, where I was like, you know what? I'm taking Luke Weaver, and if Devin Williams never gets his job back, at least maybe I can ride Luke Weaver to friends and family glory or something like that. And then I took Shelby Miller really late, who could get me some saves at least for a little while until Justin Martinez is back. And then who knows, like what they decide to do.
All right. Indeed. Yeah. All right. You guys, I'll repost the link here real quick so people can check it out for themselves if they want to check out the draft grid. But I think we've spent enough time talking about our own draft. So there it is. You guys can check it out. Draw your own conclusions. Meanwhile, we're on the BlueWire network. Here are their ads. Okay. Thank you for your indulgence. And thank you to BlueWire for hosting us. If you want to check out more of our content over at RotoWire, we have a new promo code. Use YouTube15 for your promo code. Get 15% off any RotoWire product, including our essential projected starters grid, of course, James Anderson's prospect rankings. Check out all the latest news, all their latest depth charts results. Trust me, it's worth it. Check it out. RotoWire.com, promo code YouTube15. Let's discuss, Fred, overachieving offenses first. And our cover story guy was Pete Crow-Armstrong. Our team was the Chicago Cubs. Cubs have scored 277 runs. They have 117 WRC plus. They're tied for the league majors lead in runs scored, third in WRC plus. This is a really good offense. I am avoiding starting my pitchers against them whenever I can. What say you?
Yeah, I totally agree on that. Everything that they were hoping for from Kyle Tucker has happened, and it's not even like Tucker's been that amazing. Like his OPS right now is like in the high 800s or something like that. So he's been really good, but not like on 1,000 OPS and just totally carrying. But I think his presence has made a big difference in the lineup. Seiya Suzuki actually hasn't played well lately, but they've managed to work around that. It just feels like between Tucker's arrival, the like weird season opening hot streak by Carson Kelly, and then some guys like Dansby Swanson having having a bounce back season, and like you say, Pete Crow-Armstrong having a terrific season so far. Yeah, it's become like a long, dangerous lineup. You already mentioned that they played a hard schedule and have still done really well. Like they are like right at the top of my list now for most feared lineups. Like if I see them on my pitcher's schedule for the week, I'm looking to get out. Like unless it's a really like a Joe Ryan or something like that, sure. But
Aces only, as Paul Sporer likes to say, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like an
I
average
still
pitcher,
feel the Dodgers the most, fear the Dodgers
okay,
the most, and the
okay.
Yankees second, but the
Yeah.
Cubs are right there for me.
Yeah. Yes, for me too. So I think this is real. I think that some things could even go up and down. Like I could see, I don't think we've seen Ian Happ's best stretch of the year. Like I think it could be a little better. Suzuki
Yep.
could have a little better stretch of the year. That would be offset by maybe Crow-Armstrong, regresses a bit, or Carson Kelly falls off. This is a team like we've seen with them being able to, when they called up Ballesteros, like they have prospects they can call up. Matt Shaw's back. Like they haven't really got anything out of him so far. Maybe he ends up being a big contributor at some point. So I think there are enough moving pieces. There are enough overachievers and underachievers that this all evens out to this being a top 5 offense the rest of the way.
Yep. By the way, Happ is off the IL
Yeah.
today, and Ballesteros was sent down in the corresponding move.
Yeah.
And both those were pretty obvious coming. So not a real surprise there. Let's talk about a team that maybe people are surprised about, and I know, frankly, I am a little bit. And that's the Detroit Tigers. I thought they'd be good, and never thought they'd be this good. I thought, in fact, maybe some regression off of last year's second half where they went on that improbable run into the playoffs. They weren't that great of an offense. They are this year, Fred. 257 runs scored at 116 WRC plus. They're a good team. They have the best record in baseball actually right now. They are plus 80 run differential. They got hurt a little bit yesterday. That 11-4 loss to the Cardinals, but hey, 31-17, really good at home. 17-5 at home, 14-12 away. But man, they're rolling right now.
Yeah. So I wondered, like, how much do you fear the Tigers offense right now? Like when you're setting your pitching lineups, I'm definitely not attacking them anymore, but I don't really fear them yet. And maybe I need to start fearing them. They
Sure.
lead the majors in BABIP.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's something that they can sustain.
Right.
Like, like them, and then so there's them and the Cardinals kind of neck and neck in BABIP, and then a bit of a drop to another cluster of teams, which is usually like a pretty good sign that you've been a little bit fortunate. So I feel like this is a team that's due for some regression. I'm not saying that they're like a bad lineup or anything like that, but I think it's a team that's due for some regression. In fact, I can stay in the division and tell you who they remind me of last year was Cleveland. So Cleveland got off to like a really good start offensively last
That's
year,
right.
and kind of Jose Ramirez and kind of maybe Steven Kwan and Josh Naylor, and then just like a bunch of guys, and really just Jose Ramirez. Like Steven Kwan and Josh Naylor are like good good hitters, but not like 850, 900 OPS guys. Like there's 7 80 OPS guys, that kind of thing. Like, so I feel like when I look at the Tigers lineup, like I look at the bottom half of it and I'm just like Trey Sweeney, Javier Baez, I see Akil Baddoo, whoever's out at catcher. I know, and Dingler's he's tailed off like a little bit. I'm nothing against him, but like, and Jake Rogers is now back. I don't know. I just feel like this lineup is fine. Zach McKinstry's been an everyday player for them. Like, I feel like this lineup's fine. I feel like it's not a top 5 lineup.
Well, getting Torkelson back to the form that we all kind of thought he could be is one part of it there. 885 OPS from him. Riley Green's a stud. I think that one's been pretty vetted, although he got off to a slow start is the funny thing. He's been on fire lately. 836 OPS. You know my love for Kerry Carpenter. That exists. And 812 OPS from them. So that's 3 right there. They haven't gotten a single inning from Parker Meadows is the funny thing. They got
Matt Vierling, who is like a little bit sneaky important to them. Like, like Matt Vierling could come in right now and help get, maybe one of those holes, whether it's Akil Baddoo or something, but get one of those holes out of the lineup and just be like a 720 OPS guy, like a competent major leaguer.
I could not bring myself to pull the trigger on Javi Baez multiple times in this draft last night. That was the, and I'm team recency bias. That was a line I couldn't cross, but he's been good.
Did he get drafted? I've already closed the tab. So
he had to have.
It was really late and he was still available. I felt like, so
last round. That's ridiculous. P&L did that. Shoot, for the last round pick, anybody's a good pick. So that's definitely not bad at all.
I really feel like I don't yet. Maybe I'm being slow to it, but I don't fear this lineup like with my pitchers. I'll respect it, but I'm still considering them. Like I said, like I saw Cleveland last year. I'm considering them like a I'm still considering them like a mid-level matchup.
Yep. One other parting comment before we move on to the next team, because otherwise, and maybe we just leave, we stick to just offense today and then we do the pitching next week. I think that'd probably be the best way to go about this. But in the context of do you fear them? So I picked up Slade Ciccone in a couple of leagues this week. And then Hayden Birdsong was picked up in a number of leagues as well. And, or was held on to. And Ciccone gets the Tigers on Thursday. And then that's at Detroit too. So good ballpark to pitch in there. Hayden Birdsong pitches against them on Monday. So, we're kind of reviewing those pickups. It's like, okay, they get Detroit. Are you benching against Detroit? No, I'm not benching against Detroit. Maybe I should. And I should maybe have a little bit more of a healthy fear, especially because the Tigers have been so much better at home than on the road.
Maybe we're still pretty small sample. Like when we start talking home road, like at this point, like I said, we're about a quarter of the way through the season. So, let's say your team's played 46 games, 48 games, something like that. Like you're still talking like 24 home games. You get a few blowouts or like a pitcher, a batter pitching late or something. You get 8 runs on or something. I don't know. Like it's still pretty much there. I know I'm with you. I got Ciccone in a couple leagues. And I put him out there in 15 teamers, like where it was like Ciccone or just use like a decent middle reliever. I went with Ciccone. So I guess I don't have that much confidence in him. So I guess I don't have that much fear yet of the Tigers. We'll see if I get burned.
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe, and we'll find out. We'll find out about that there. Next team on our list. Another red hot team that just beat the Tigers yesterday. That's the St. Louis Cardinals. Sit at 27-21. They've scored 235 runs. So not, and they went through a pretty rough stretch early. You have to pay attention to what they've been doing recently because their overall stats haven't caught up. For a long time, they went without almost any power on the road. That has changed though. 110 WRC plus, 329 WOBA, 19.8 strikeout percentage. That's really low. This is a team that's doing a lot better now.
Absolutely. So they've done one thing really well to earn this. They're have the 4th best strikeout rate in baseball. So they're putting a lot of balls in play. But then, as I mentioned already, when we were talking about the Tigers, the Cardinals BABIP is neck and neck with the Tigers and well ahead of everybody else. So they've put a lot of balls in play because they're not striking out. And so far that's been a recipe for success because they've been getting a lot of hits on them. So I'd say those are the reasons if I would kind of narrow it down as a group. This is another team where I look at this offense and I'm like, like to me, like where does this offense rank in the league? Average. Like, I don't see this as a scary lineup. In fact, I think, am I more scared of the Tigers? No, not necessarily. I'd say about the same. What do you
Yeah.
think?
The Cardinals are like
I
one of
might
those
be more scared
teams,
of the
like
Tigers.
they you're not going to get your strikeouts against them. That's one thing I don't
No.
like. You know,
Yeah.
I hate streaming, against teams that don't strike out.
Hmm.
Um, and the funny thing is, like, as Adam points out, Nolan Arenado isn't really raking right now. He's moved down to 6, but other people have been stepping up. Brendan Donovan stepped up. Jordan Walker has not stepped up, by the way. That's one guy that's been a just abject failure, unfortunately, so far for them. Um, it might be time to send him down, but Mason Wynn has taken a step up. Wilson Contreras had a hideous start to the season. He's doing a lot better now. Ivan Herrera is off the IL. He's been fantastic. Lars Nootbaar's had a pretty good year. Victor Scott has had a pretty good year, especially when you frame it in as, what did you expect from Victor Scott? Did you expect him to hit for power? Well, then you're a fool. But if you expected him to hit for decent average, score 20 plus runs, 13 stolen bases, you'll take that. And he's getting you great defense too for the Cardinals. So there is that also. Not that we're talking about surprising offenses though. So that shouldn't fully calculate. But thing is, not everything's gone right for the Cardinals yet. They're still an above average offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I look at them, and maybe they're even a little different than Tigers for me, because with the Tigers, I see a few bats that I'm like, oh, that's like Riley Green. He's really good. With the Cardinals, like, unless you count Ivan Herrera, which I can't, like, off 16 games this season,
Mm-hmm.
with him having been hurt, the rest of it, like, Eh, like Brendan Donovan's their best hitting regular. We know what Brendan Donovan is, and we're seeing the best of Brendan Donovan so far. Like, he can hit for a really high average when things are going well for him, and that's what he's been doing. But
Yeah.
like, the rest of it is kind of just like 7-something OPS guys: Nootbaar, Wynn, Contreras, Victor Scott. Like it's fine. I, I don't know. I have a hunch that there'll be a boomerang effect here, that they'll go through some rough stretches. How about this? I don't know if you have it up in front of you, but how many homers does the Cardinals leader in homers have so far?
I'll say like 8.
Yeah, 7. Lars Nootbaar.
Yep.
Um,
Which
which
you'll
kind
take,
of
by the way, for the price you paid for Nootbaar.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But when you think about, like, is an offense scary or not? Like, even the Tigers, who I wasn't very complimentary, have a 12 with Torkelson, and 11 with Riley Green, and a 9 with Carpenter. Like, to have 7 from your leader, like, it does feel to me a little bit like a team that's kind of BABIP their way to a good start to the season. Yeah, I'm not fearing them at all. In fact, I think there could even be like a little bit of sell high. I don't know if you can sell high on Brendan Donovan.
That's the
Maybe
thing, is,
not.
what are people paying for that?
Yeah.
That's the tricky part. Adam makes a good point. They have a new hitting coach that has got a contact first approach. That might be in helping the BABIP that we're referring to. I could see that a little bit, but
It helps the strike. It might help the strikeout rate. It might be the
doesn't
reason
help
they're
our
not
power
striking
numbers
out as
though. Yeah,
much.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The lack of a dominant hitter or two, I think is like, okay, so I know how passionate Cardinals fans are. So if any of them are listening right now, they're going to like break their
Best
phone,
fans in baseball.
or they're going to like break their phone or computer or whatever. But I look at the Cubs lineup that we talked about a minute or two ago, and this Cardinals lineup, and like, they are not similar at all, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
I
far as
still
two
think
teams that are
they're
in the division.
the thing about the Cardinals that's interesting is, I'm not thrilled about the young hitting on the way. Young
Mhm.
pitching, though, on the
Yep.
other hand, is
Yep.
interesting. First of all, Liberatore, finally getting him to break through a little bit.
Yep.
I think some of that's real. If you look at the walk rates declining, for instance, there, I think that's a sign of growth as a pitcher. So I like that. Quinn Matthews is just getting healthy again. He'll be up at some point in time. McGreevy can pitch. Tink Hence is hurt right now. He could be up at some point in time, maybe in the longer future. But they have a wave of younger pitchers that are coming up, and maybe those will be more than just league average guys. Like, they can stop trotting out the Michaelises of the world. They had Miles Michaelis and Kyle Gibson in that rotation last year, just like, it's
But
just like maybe
yeah.
somebody you can get excited about eventually. No, there's more volatility in that. There's some risk, obviously, but I think that's something, if you're a Cardinals fan, you'd be happy about there.
Yeah, okay, this trio of boring pitchers: Eric Fetty, Andre Pallant, and Miles Michaelis, they all have a K per nine under 6,
Yeah.
and they all have an ERA of 4.11 or better. Like, they're all doing their thing of pitching, 5 or 6 innings and keeping you in the game. 5 or 6 innings, 2 runs, 5 or 6 innings, 2 runs, over and over again, keep you in the game. You know, like this is to me, this is a very Cardinals team. And I think Cardinals fans will appreciate it. This is the team that's trying to grind their way into a playoff spot.
And it might work. It might blow up in their face. That's the thing, like it did last year. Although last year they ended with a winning record, believe it or not. But
it's true.
But they're very. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if they could get help from the young pitchers you mentioned, that's what could keep them in it. Like if it's this type of rotation all the way through, I think eventually it just peters out and they finish under 500. It's if those guys that you mentioned, can eventually give them a shot in the arm, and that's totally possible.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Next team on our list, the regression monster has already started to kick in. I think that is the San Francisco Giants. 223 runs scored, a 96 WRC plus takes it into account home park effects. So you can't just say, oh, well, they play in an extreme pitcher's park. They do, but I think they're sort of coming back to the pack already a little bit, Fred.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've been fortunate on some things already. And again, this is another like smart organization that often finds ways to, I find they often find ways to keep their team, like fairly high in the standings without having maybe some superstars. But like for Wilmer Flores to have 42 RBIs at this point in the season is like, that's absolutely ridiculous. I don't think he got drafted in our league last night. Like, I was just pulling up to see where that is. That's first. Yeah, I thought it was first in baseball. He leads the majors in RBIs, and I'm not sure if he got drafted.
And he went undrafted. He absolutely went undrafted. That is incredible.
Yeah, that shows you the level of skepticism. And he has 10 home runs. So it's not like it's not, the RBI total is obviously a little bit fluky, but it's not like he has 4 home runs and you're just like, oh, how is this guy possibly, like, it's just like every time a guy's on base, he happens to get a hit. Like he does have 10 home runs, but I think we've just seen so much of Wilmer Flores over the years to know that he's a okay major league hitter, like a competent major league hitter. There are some guys here.
I just added him, by the way. He should be rostered.
I don't think you can't add him yet, can you? I think you can claim him.
Oh,
claimed them.
Darn it. Boo, I thought I was just grabbing them there.
You just told me and everyone else that you've got to claim it on Wilmer Flores. So if I want to,
yeah, he's the number one rated player on Yahoo, though, that is unrostered. So we do have like regular waivers, so that'll run in a couple of days from now. But I had Mania that I slotted to my IL, so now I have to figure out an amount now. Darn it. I thought I was being clever. Now I'm the opposite of clever. I'm a dunce.
I was gonna say if you don't care, just leave it at 0. And if you get them, you get them. Like you didn't draft them, so
yeah,
they weren't that inspired. But it was just last night you didn't draft them. Anyways, back to the Giants. Like I don't know. I do see some pieces that are okay. Like Helio Ramos, like is off to a really good start the season. I think he has lots of potential. Jung Ho Lee is off to a really good start. Yeah, me too. There's even some guys like Matt Chapman can probably play a little better than he has so far. Adames can definitely play better. There's another, like you talked about the whole Colton and the Wolfman first year of a big contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's another guy. That one I thought was really predictable. I have no shares of Willie Adames, and I was like, to me, he just screamed career season in a contract year. Now he's signed with a team that doesn't have a good park to hit in. This is not going to go well. Now, Matt Chapman screamed that a little bit to me last year, not to the same degree, but Chapman screamed that to me last year. I was just like, oh, this guy's going to go to San Fran and just totally flame out. Like he couldn't do that much with the Blue Jays year after year after year. And then he goes out to San Fran, keeps hitting home run. Yeah, hits 27 homers, which is really good. And then all of a sudden steals 15 bases. So he kind of showed me last year, but the Adames one is so predictable.
Right. Well, let me a couple other comments here on the Giants. One, the perception is that they don't strike out a lot. That is not true. Mm-hmm. They are 10th in baseball in strikeouts at 22.9%. So that, like the Cardinals, they're at 19.8% as a point of comparison there. So you absolutely want to attack them when you have a left-handed pitcher. The left-handed pitcher, the Giants are striking at 24.3% of the time. 289 WOBA, 83 WRC plus. One benefit from doing VSiN on a daily basis is we have to make picks on games. And so you're digging into these like splits a little bit more. You're digging into rolling averages a little bit more. When you're trying to advise people how to spend their money, you try to want to have the right information. So it's helping me in DFS also. left-handed pitchers versus the Giants, it's not universally great, but you would think, okay, they have Chapman, they have Wilmer Flores, they have Adames. You don't want to face lefties against them. That's not true. That's not true. They have not been hitting lefties very well at all. So that's something to pay attention to. Also, lefties as a whole have, the league does worse against left-handed pitching. They strike out more. They have lower WOBAs, lower WRC pluses all across the board. Lefties have an advantage in baseball right now. It's just, thought it was kind of noteworthy there a little bit there. So anyways, we have a request to talk about Sandy Alcantara. We're going to do, we'll get to that when we're done with the overachieving hitting teams. We'll do that in a second here, but we're really focusing on the hitting right now. So we'll get to Alcantara in a moment here, but let's go to our next team, and that is the Athletics. I won't even have a prefix for them. There's Athletics.
Yeah, the Athletics have been an overachieving team, not by being great, but by being average. I think they are, let's see here, 15th, exactly average, 15th in total runs scored this year. So them moving up to average. Now the question is how much of that is park effect? So we take a quick little modifier search a bit, and where are they in runs scored at home? Really low, 23rd in baseball in runs scored at home, and in runs scored on the road, they're 14th. So
they're average.
The story that the A's are hitting way better this year because their new park or their temporary park or whatever that's the reason that they're doing so well, because we've seen that with some pitchers like Luis Severino being really notable for his struggles at home and success on the road this year. But for the A's team, that's not what's happening. They're hitting better this year, or scoring more runs, or scoring runs at a higher rate this year because they're scoring runs at a higher rate this year, not because of their home ballpark.
Yeah. And hey, this is one too, where it behooves you to pay attention to recency a little bit more. The numbers in the last 30 days are a little lower. I mean, they're like 17th in runs scored since then. The point is they've slowed down a little bit. If you have Lawrence Butler, you know what I'm talking about. If you have one home run from Nick Kurtz so far, you know what I'm talking about. Soderstrom has slowed down.
Soderstrom's tailed off a lot.
So yeah, and we're Bladay's losing playing time. He hasn't really fully kicked in. Even Rooker has been moderately disappointing lately. So I know they actually had a big series against the Dodgers because the Dodgers aren't pitching well. Fun fact, they're 21st in runs allowed so far as a team right now. But that's the Underachieving Pitchers podcast. We'll hit that one later. But the Athletics are fine. I think there was some expectation they'd be above average in pitching and hitting and below average in pitching, but they're really just average in hitting right now. And that probably speaks to why they're not doing better in the standings than they are.
Yeah, that's true. I do think, I think there's the potential for them to be more successful in hitting the rest of the way. Like they haven't taken full advantage of their home park. That could happen at some point.
8-14 at home, by the way.
There you go. Yeah. So I do think there's like Jacob Wilson, I think is totally legit. I know you drafted him last night. He was in my queue when you drafted him. I think, he'll be among the batting average leaders. So I feel like he's legit. Guys like Soderstrom have had some ups and downs, but I think he's legit as in can be a competent major leaguer. I think there's potential for someone like Butler to get hot this summer, for someone like Rooker. There's definitely potential for Rooker to get really hot, and maybe he's got a 755 OPS. Maybe he could have an 855 or an 800 from this point forward. Shea Langoliers is doing fine. I think he could even have a better stretch at some point. I don't know. I think this is an offense that is decent, and I don't know. I look at the names in this offense. I don't see it as that much less talented than the Tigers or the Cardinals. I don't see it as any less talented actually than the Cardinals.
No, it's built differently though. It's probably a little bit more of a feast or famine sort of thing, wouldn't you think? With the higher strikeout rates, perhaps even and just obviously less experience as a whole too. Very young team as a whole.
Yes, absolutely. It could go in one of kind of two directions. Yeah, actually, you know what? Their strikeout rate's really low. It's 25th in baseball. 25th most, 6th best.
Really?
In baseball, 19.9%. Yeah,
so that's better than
So I don't know. I feel like it's, and I just
Jacob Wilson never strikes out. That's part of it there. So that's one part.
Yes. Yeah. You're right. Wilson would be would be a big asset for them in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Miguel Andujar is another guy, doesn't strike out much. It has been
Yeah.
playing a fair amount for them. Not like a huge impact guy, but a 770 OPS. Like he keeps the line moving. I just think there's enough young talent in this lineup that it could get better. It could also hit the wall and stink in the second half, but I think it could get better. Well, there's certainly so much potential in Kurtz.
Yeah.
Like we haven't seen it so far, but there's obviously potential for Kurtz to get
So Kurtz
hot at
could
the
either
end.
catch fire or he could get sent down. There's a lot.
Yep.
It's a highly volatile guy. I think you could buy pretty low on him right now.
There's an
Last night
interesting
he
one.
hit.
Would you? Yeah.
What's
Would you?
that?
Would you? There's an interesting question.
Yeah, I think you can make the case for it there. Speaking of guys that change the value, he got drafted in the 19th round, taken by DJ Short from RotoWorld. So, yeah, that's a pretty fair price. Pick 224. That's not really expending a whole lot to take a chance on that. I like it there. I think that was a pretty good price for taking that chance. All right, one more team on the overachievers. The Seattle Mariners, who we excoriated this offseason for their lack of activity. They sit 220 runs scored, top 10 in baseball in runs scored, 115 WRC plus. They're not as on fire as they were earlier, but they're not like totally cooling off either.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I look at this, and is this really just Jorge Polanco and Cal Raleigh, and then some other guys who are kind of along for the ride? I guess not totally. Randy Arozarena is having a decent year. Dylan Moore's been surprisingly good for them. I feel like Dylan Moore has a good stretch every year, and then it's just a terrible 150 stretch every year. JP Crawford's bounced back this year, not to a degree where he's like awesome, but he's bounced back. What's neat about this whole thing is, again, they're doing this without Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
So who's done some fantasy relevant things, like
did hit a grand slam yesterday. So
yeah,
we haven't for that.
But a 724 OPS, like a 724 OPS from a hitter taken in the second round, that's got to be like the worst or pretty close to the worst OPS of any hitter taken in the first two rounds this year. Maybe Jazz Chisholm, who's hurt,
or my guy Jackson Churio, who's really
Churios. Yeah, I noticed when I was watching the Brewers game last night, his was in the high sixes. Yeah. Anyways, Julio Rodriguez is not powering this offense. He's not killing it.
You know what's powering it? Walks. They are second in baseball in walks, 10.2% walk percentage. Only the Yankees walk more. They were among the bottom teams in that last year, or maybe not the bottom, but they made a concentrated effort here. Julio's walking. He's not hitting for average, but he's got a 313 on base. Cal Raleigh, 362 on base. Randy Arozarena, 372 on base. JP Crawford, 383 on base percentage, only hitting 271. So he is doing a perfect job as a leadoff hitter. Polanco, 359 OBP. Dylan Moore, 342 OBP. Mitch Garver, not hitting for average, but 356 OBP. Luke Raley's hurt right now. He's hitting 206, but he's got a 345 OBP. Leo Rivas, who's going to call up for all the guys that have been hurt at second base, 441 OBP and playing great defense. So this is a concerted effort by the team, and it is translating into some success.
Yeah, they're getting on base, and you can see with some of the guys like Raleigh. Obviously, we've already talked about how many home runs he has this year. So you've got and Polanco's got 10 home runs. That's a pretty impressive stretch. Yeah, they're kind of finding like they're doing a little bit of everything. They're also 8th in steals, so 6th in homers as a team, 8th in steals as a team, and actually their OBP is not quite as high as maybe I thought. I think they're more average. That can't be right as a team in OBP. How am I? There they are, 11th. So 11th as a team in OBP. Yeah, they're above average. They're just kind of what they're doing here is there's no dominant skill set, but they're getting on base at an above average rate. They're hitting home runs at an above average rate. They're stealing bases at an above average rate. So they're, kind of a little bit of everything. Can they keep this up?
I mean, I think the walk thing could be sustainable. Why couldn't it be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think last year, I felt like last year their offense really underachieved. So Rodriguez can probably play a lot better than he has so far. Rosarena can probably play about the same as he has so
Mm-hmm.
far. Cal Raleigh probably and Polanco are going to tail off a bit, but maybe that's offset by someone like Rodriguez. This lineup also has like really obvious holes that if they want to address them. What's amazing is last year, I remember us talking about how it's just criminal that the rotation was so good, and then the offense was so bad around it, and now the rotation is being put together with like tape and glue right now while they deal with these injuries. But they're not long. Like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby will both be back around the end of May at the latest. Bryce Miller, like we'll see, but like getting holy moly, like getting Logan Gilbert and George Kirby back would be the best pitcher on most teams, a lot of teams in baseball. I think this team, the holes in the lineup to me are so obvious and easy to fix as far
But
as
they
this.
were this off season too, Fred.
I
That's
know,
the thing. They did nothing. That's why I hated their off season.
but it's but it's cheaper to fix it at the deadline. So, like, as far as you only have to pay the guy for a couple months. So, replacing Rowdy Tellez with a first baseman who's hitting well at the deadline is just so easy. And then when you've got like Leody Taveras, we'll see where that all goes. But if they were to get a first baseman and I don't know, one other hitter at the deadline. And again, like totally understand your frustration from the offseason, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a lot cheaper to grab a guy at the end of July. It will be so easy to get a first baseman who's better than Rowdy Tellez at the deadline if they want to do it.
Yeah.
Easy in both in terms of prospects and in terms of you only have to pay the guy for 2 months.
Yeah. So we've already gone an hour and we haven't even touched the underachievers yet. I don't want to race through them.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could just do one or two.
Well, okay, we did have a request on Sandy, so let's hit Sandy.
Okay, sure.
We'll hit the Orioles, and we had a request for the Pace Eaters, and they're number 2 on our list. So yeah, we'll do those 2 teams, and then we'll mention the other teams on the way out here. But first, what do you do with Sandy Alcantara? Is the question. So a lot of people are getting impatient. I actually think it's a time to target him. I almost think it's not a bad idea to go after him. It was in his last start against the Rays, he was going well for a while, and the same was true against the White Sox and kind of petered out late. I think he's showing signs of almost being there. I think I would try to trade for him right now.
Interesting. So my stance was going to be that I don't have any shares and that I'm not interested in acquiring them. I had a negative view of Sandy going into the season.
Sure.
I just felt like coming off the long layoff, coming off the injury, has never been a strikeout pitcher, has always been a control guy who thrives off massive amounts of innings. When I did the math on it, I was like, unless these innings are massive right away, it just doesn't add up to me as a valuable pitcher. Like he's got a 7.99 ERA. Let's say he could have like a 4 ERA the rest of the way. So we got like a 4 ERA with a bad strikeout rate on a bad team. I'm out. For me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So I would say for me, like if I had Sandy, I would probably look to get out, but I guess I wouldn't drop him. But
yeah, if someone dropped him, would you just spec pick him up on the cheap?
Probably. Yeah, I probably would. Assuming I can't afford to start him. I'd say right now, like I can't afford to just in a 15 team. Like I'm worried about having to just kind of blind start him because I just don't have anyone else. I don't know if I can afford to do that, but if I could bench him, yeah, absolutely. If somebody was going to drop him, by the way, like we're not going to get into pitching staff today, but one of the weird things about baseball I find this year is the Marlins are terrible, but their offense is not terrible. It's not good, but it's not terrible. It's the pitching that's terrible, and I did not see that coming at all. But although I can because of all the injuries, but the Marlins, if you just look at their organizational depth chart, they have a lot of really high-end arms in their organization, and
that's the funny thing. Yeah,
and not very many high-end offensive players. But what's happened is the offensive players have actually cobbled together like nothing great, but say be like 20th in runs.
Stowers, I mean, So the Marlins are, I mean, they're 15th in OPS, they're 19th in runs scored.
Yeah.
Hey, average offense. Average is well above what we expected out of them.
Like they could have been, if the pitching had lived up to it, like they could have been a 500 team. The offense has been way better than I thought. The pitching's been awful, and therefore the team's awful.
And that's why I'm skeptical of teams that build from a young core of pitchers.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather build from a core of hitters and then add the pitching on top. I think that's the more likely way to succeed, it's a little less perilous, because you have injury and performance risks that are higher, I think, as a pitcher. That's why I tend to be that way. But they are getting Ryan Weathers back. Max Meyer could be great. He's a little volatile right now. I gave up on Edward Cabrera this week in the main event. We dropped him, so
he stinks. He's not.
Yeah, I'm done with him.
Pitcher.
I'm done with him. But so it goes.
You couldn't have made a better segue by saying, it's way smarter to invest in young hitters like the Orioles, who are our next team to discuss, and are by far the most disappointing offense this year. And they are by far the most disappointing offense this year. This was supposed to be, I know the pitching was questionable going into the year, but this was supposed to be easily a top 10 offense, if not a top 5 offense.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out it's like a bottom 5 offense.
Well, let's see. They lost Cowser like almost right away, right?
Yeah.
And he's on the 60-day IL.
Yeah.
The guy, though, I think is like almost like if we're doing a whole underachiever podcast, it would be Adley Rutschman, excuse me. I didn't say Ash. I meant to say Adley, not Ashley, but Rutschman. I mean, and it's because, last year I was willing to give him a little bit of, okay, hey, he got hit by the foul ball. That really affected his season, but we had the off season. We had the 2 homers on opening day, the torpedo bat Fred. And since then, it's just been a never-ending string of disappointments. To me, and it's sad because, and someone brought this up on Sunday night, it kind of tracks what happened to Matt Wieder's career a little bit.
Yep. I brought up the comparison before because I have a lot of Rutschman this year, and I was always a sucker for Matt Wieder's.
Yep.
So,
do you know when he last homered? Adley Rutschman's last homer was
slightly more recently than Matt Wieder's, but not by much. Well, he homered twice on opening day, and he's homered twice since. Yeah. So I'll say I don't think he's homered in May.
He has not. It was April, exactly 30 days ago, April 20th against the Reds.
Yeah.
It has torpedoed our power stats there. There's so many catchers that I'd consider taking over Rutschman right now. I don't know if he really got punished in the draft. I'm trying to see where he went, and
he went he didn't as much as
round 13. Round 13
in a 1 catcher league. That's pretty favorable, I think, for Rutschman, the way he's been playing.
I got Herrera in the same. Did I get Herrera in the same round? No, I got Herrera in the 18th round. I got him 5 rounds later. I'd rather have Herrera in the 18th and Rutschman in the 13th. I'm pretty comfortable with that too.
What's really killed the Orioles, what's interesting about the Orioles is it's not like the boring veterans. Like Ryan O'Hearn's been has their highest OPS. Mm-hmm. Ramon Laureano has second highest OPS, and Cedric Mullins has third highest. Those are the 3 guys who have 800 OPSs. So it's not the boring, faceless guys that just have to fill out the lineup, the veterans. It's not Jackson Holiday, who has 774 OPS. So it's not like him, who was the question mark in spring training. Gunnar Henderson's been disappointment.
Yeah, but he's been better lately.
Lately, for sure. It looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel there.
But
missing Jordan Westberg has been a big deal. He stunk and has been hurt.
Yeah, because he was playing hurt. But I'm going to point out something here real quick on Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah.
29% strikeout rate this year. It was 22 last year. This is the highest strikeout rate he's ever had. Walk rate is down to 6.5%. So, there's a lot going on there, and maybe he came back too quickly. Maybe he's doing something differently in his approach, but they got to get him right. That has got to be like priority number 1. He's their best player. And maybe we're seeing a little bit of better of that there. If you look at what he's done last 30 days, 890 OPS. So he's been a lot better. Just the last 7 days, not so great, but fun with splits. He can be all over the map.
Yeah. Before you get too excited about him though, his strikeout rate is worse in May than it was in April. So it's not the strikeout rate. It's the BABIP is 375 in May. So he's been better in May because he's had a lot more.
Still striking out
luck on his side. So I would say we're not there. 30.6% this month. So I would say we're not there with him. And then Heston Kjerstad hasn't progressed at all.
No.
Tyler O'Neill has been a complete bust.
And hurt.
Free agent signing and hurt. Like he's 2 home runs. Ryan Mountcastle is having just an abysmal year. I wonder if he might need a team change. Like I wonder if just things aren't working out for him at
Might be a career
Baltimore.
change. Who knows?
Yeah, this is the most. Yeah, I mean, you can try podcasting, Ryan. You probably know a lot about baseball. So, this team is this is the most disappointing team in baseball because they'll be
Oh
on
yeah,
our pitcher. They'll be in our pitcher discussion next week. Like
yep.
this is the most disappointing team in baseball, and the offense is a big part of it.
And Kobe Mayo, he didn't get much of a runway.
Yeah,
He got like 7 at bats, but
yeah,
or a little bit more than that. But 13 plate appearances, struck out 6 times though. That
yeah.
and he gets summarily dismissed again. But his K percentage is 26% at AAA, and this is the second go around at AAA. Actually, he's second half of 2023, almost all of last year, and now this year, and his K percentage is going up. This is stagnation. This isn't development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if did you see the Kyle Stowers comments recently?
No.
Just in the last few days, where I don't know, he just made some comment about how like with the Marlins, like he's just gotten like a long runway to strike out and still start the next day, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
when he was with Baltimore, like reading between the lines of his comments when he was with Baltimore, it was a little, maybe he felt like too much of a mental game of like, you better produce today, or you better, we always talk about the pace eaters there's a segue if I wanted to, but we always talk about the pace eaters and their ability to just like destroy their prospects by playing the Mickey Moniacs
Yep.
of the world, the Ian Desmonds of the world.
Nick
Like,
Martini. Yes.
right. Like I look at where Baltimore was a year ago, and Kierstead, Mayo, Stowers, Cowser, like all of these guys were supposed to be stud prospects just on the verge. None of them have turned out for Baltimore. Cowser a little bit last
Yep.
year. And along the way, we've still seen, but they've played well, like a lot of Ryan O'Hearn, a lot of Ramon Laureano, Ramon Arias plays a lot for them. Yeah, like sometimes I'm like, I wonder if the Orioles, in hindsight, they haven't won anything. Like maybe they should have just put all these guys in the lineup last year and like Stowers, and just let them work through it and see where it all goes. Because these
I think
guys
there's
were
something to that for sure.
highly valued. That was Stowers' comment. Is like Miami's got nothing to lose, so they just put me in the lineup, and maybe one day I go 0-for-4 with 2 strikeouts, but then maybe the next day I hit a home run.
Arguably, Baltimore has nothing to lose anymore either.
They
And yet
definitely do not.
they're calling up Dylan Carlson and playing him ahead of Kierstead now. So
Right.
Kierstead might be done in that organization soon. I just question though their development program, especially at the big league level. They owners almost uniformly, these Orioles prospects have started slowly. Even Gunnar Henderson, if you recall, in his cup of coffee, or not even cup of coffee, but his call up in, was it 22, 23? He struggled initially.
Yeah.
Holiday was horrible last year. So to their credit, they were patient with Holiday this year when he started slowly. I'll give them a little bit of credit for that. I don't think they've done a good job with developing, and I like Miami's doing a better job. They've done some fixing. I don't think Baltimore does as much of that. And it makes you question what's going on there a little bit. And certainly on the pitching side of things, they're not doing any development either. So from that standpoint, I didn't love the Hyde firing because I don't think it's his fault entirely, but maybe there are some things at that level. And it's not just him, it's the series of coaches, the staffs and all that. You talk though about playing veterans over young guys. I mean, let's talk pace eating Rockies here real quick before we get out of here. We'll talk about them and we'll do the other underachievers next week there. But this is all you need. This is one of the emblematic things of the Rockies. Nick Martini is 35 years old. He has never been a regular in Major League Baseball. He had a decent, 29 game sample in Cincinnati. That's it, really. He's 35 years old. Let me repeat that. 35. He's had 93 plate appearances. He's got a 586 OPS. Why is he even on the roster? Why is he playing? I don't want to wish anybody out of a job, but to what end are the Rockies serving? Shouldn't they be just letting Veen fail at the big league level and try to get better than wasting at bats on Nick Martini? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I to add to that, Mickey Moniak, who's to me is also now like long past any prospect status, just a washed up veteran.
Yeah.
He has an even lower WAR than Martini and has soaked up even more plate appearances than Martini. There's two outfielders playing so much and playing so poorly. For this team to be bad at hitting at home is just insane. So, like, we know the book on a bad Rockies team. Like, they're a bad hit, they're abysmal on the road, and they're actually like above average compared to the league average at home because Coors Field carries them. So even a terrible Rockies team can be like 10th in runs scored or runs per game at home, or 12th or something. These guys can't even do that. The batting averages are so low. This team is just like, I don't even really bench pitchers when they're pitching at Coors now. Like, maybe if they're not very good in the first place, but if I see a pitcher benching at or playing at Coors now, I'm like, yeah, that's fine, because the team's probably going to score, first of all, like 8 runs. So
like, I won't start Taijuan Walker in Coors Field.
Totally.
But Christopher Sanchez yesterday, Jesus Luzardo today, I probably would. Max Fried definitely would. I'm even thinking about Will Warren because he gets a start today and then a start again on Sunday in Coors, and I'm kind of like,
sure, I'd do it. I'd be fine with it.
I mean, at least I'll get some strikeouts there. And I know, I know they might say something to the effect of like, well, it was Jordan Beck or Zach Veen, and that's just a false choice. Yeah, they should be playing Beck and Veen. They should be playing both those guys. I struggle with the Rockies so much, as you know. I mock them, and it's all ownership driven. The owners are just horrible. Just a horrible organization. There was a good piece in Yahoo after the Bud Black firing talking about how they have like original employees still in their front office. And okay, that's great with loyalty to some things, but they actively don't have a lot of the developmental tools that every single other major league organization has, like a pitch tracker, some of the things that, that I remember the story. Who's the relief pitcher for the, the Mets, just kind of got out of baseball just recently, but he had Adam Ottavino, the some of the pitching implements that all organizations and colleges are using to try to improve their pitch mix, to try to watch the shape of their pitches. He went out and bought that stuff himself and developed himself because the Rockies wouldn't. Think about that for a second there. Just think about that. How brain dead do you have to be not to have all that sort of development tools? They want it. The Rockies, they are so brain dead. They're so archaic. They want to try to limit the developmental tools, the number of front office employees, all this stuff. They're not trying to improve. They're trying to limit costs. All they care about is that. And it's baffling to me. And this is a great ballpark, a great organization, not great organization, great fan base, excuse me.
Yeah.
Great
city, like
great
city. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they're the pace eaters. They really are. They're so bad. And they're not, as they say in Succession, they're not serious people.
So to take your Rockies, so I remember you drafted some Michael Toglia. I'm pretty sure I remember that.
Yeah. And labor, I have them. And yeah.
So looking at forward, so obviously you just dismiss all Rockies pitchers. Like, I get that. But like, if you're thinking ahead to next year, is it time to say that this organization is so bad at even developing their hitters that even with Coors Field, it probably makes sense to take a pessimistic view of Rockies hitters? Like Toglia, Brenton Doyle's taken a huge step back this season. Ezekiel Tovar was hurt, and when he's been playing, when he was
yesterday.
Yeah, like he's still not very good. Like, he's got a 760 OPS. It's okay. He's got 2 homers
and just so many strikeouts on this team.
Like this year, like last year, Brenton Doyle was a good find. This year, Hunter Goodman's been a good find. But like having one good find per team per year is not much. Like, that's every team like has someone have a good year. I wonder if the takeaway until we see something different, especially with what you said, with what we know about how behind this organization is from just an ability to be an organization, like if it makes sense to take a skeptical view of every Colorado player for your drafts next year, to be like, okay, Hunter Goodman, let's say it's a decent year this year, I'm going to project some regression because it's just the Rockies. Like, I just think they won't be able to sustain. Michael Toglia struggles with strikeouts. I'm not letting him pass that. I'm not getting optimistic on his struggles with strikeouts because he's part of the Rockies. Like, I think that might be the takeaway. Like, just if you never touch Toglia this year, if you never touch McMahon, if you never touch Brenton Doyle, like, if you never touch Tovar, like, sure, you missed out on Hunter Goodman, but whatever, you missed out on like 5 or 6 busts.
Yeah, it's like taking the approach I have with Rockies closers. Okay, I missed out on the one good year of
Yeah.
Daniel Bard. So be it.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe you do that
yeah,
to the entire offensive group, which is just wild for a team with the best park to hit it in baseball. Like to say, yeah, I'm just out. Like maybe late round picks only. Like sure, Jordan back in round 25, sure, and just see if it turns out to anything because you're just going
yeah.
to drop him in a couple weeks if it doesn't work out. But maybe that's it. Maybe it's late round picks only on Rockies position
Until
players.
ownership sells, or
Yeah,
until
or
we get
until
reports saying, okay, we see the error of our ways, we
yeah,
apologize, which they're never going to do.
yeah, or like a credible, yeah, or like down the road in a couple years, a credible reporter, does a really good piece on like this is an organization that's learned from their mistakes and added X, Y, and Z. You're never going to see that article, but if you ever saw that article, then sure, you could think twice after that.
Yeah. Every ownership statement starts with economic disadvantages, and they're not serious people.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I think there's value to that. Unfortunately, there's too many franchises we have to cross off right now, Fred. There's the Pirates offense, the Pirates hitters. You have to cross off. I think the White Sox you cross off, the Rockies you cross off. I mean, like every day, every week, I do my free agent swing, and for pitching, the entire Rockies rotation is available, and even the deepest leagues. Most of the White Sox rotation is available. I mean, Cannon's been picked up in leagues. Obviously, Shane Smith is rostered everywhere, but I also think he's just kind of a ticking time bomb. He's no way he's a 2.05 ERA guy. It's just that I think Davis Martin may have some upside, but this is an organization just running him tonight, so that kind of tells you where you're at with them too. So. Yeah.
But the White Sox are just in the midst of a massively deep rebuild.
Yeah.
The Rockies are hopeless.
Yeah.
Like the Rockies aren't even in a rebuild.
No, they are.
They don't even know what they're in. Like at least the White Sox were like, we're going to completely. By the way, when we were talking about the Orioles, that was a thought that crossed my mind. Is like, how many years was this team so bad, and what they got out of it ended up being like one really good year and one kind of good year, and now we're back to bad. Like Houston was so bad for so long, and then so good for so long.
Yeah.
Like that's what the White Sox are trying to do. And there's some pitchers in the White Sox farm system, Noah Schultz and some of these guys who, and some position players like trying to like
they might be okay
deep.
In the long run. They've got a lot of prospects.
They're still deep in the rebuild, but they're like trying to do the right things. The Pirates are just cheap. I'm not sure if I don't think the Pirates can develop players either, but they're also just so incredibly cheap. The Rockies are just to me on another level.
Yeah. And it's funny when Black got fired, like there was a lot of reports like, okay, so I dug through the organization and it's like, whoo, it's not good there. It's not like they're on the cusp of anything. They've got like Carrig could be interesting. Charlie Condon got hurt in spring training. He was horrible last year, but hey, top 10 pick, maybe it'll be okay eventually. I feel for Chase Dollander that he came up in this organization. I think if he had been developed in a different organization, he could be a stud, but I mean, it's hard to with the Rockies, and it's not just Coors Field. As we said, it's all the lack of developmental tools too, and the lack of real coaching, real development. They don't get there. Their Rockies prospects always disappoint too, and that's the other thing that's so tough there. So, all right, Rangers will save till next week. Royals, Blue Jays, Astros. We'll talk about their offenses. Start hitting up the pitching, overachieving and underachieving pitching as well. Just too much to talk about. We get on these tangents and it's fun to talk about it there. So we'll hit all those up. Good stuff in the comments, everybody. Those who are streaming live, those who listen to us on the podcast, thank you very much. Again, you can check out RotoWire for yourself. You get 15% off any RotoWire product by going to using promo code YouTube15 when you sign up for RotoWire, any RotoWire product. Again, it's promo code YouTube15. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate y'all. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday. Take care.